Quazi here. There are secret societies out there that have access to knowledge that the average person doesn't. And there's a reason why they hold such high positions of power. From the Freemasons to the levitating yogis in the Himalayas who would never dare reveal themselves, to the ancient Egyptians who built the unexplainable pyramids aligned with perfect geometry. Over the last decade, I've been obsessed with studying the minds of the most successful and going deep into the ancient teachings to uncover what they knew about controlling reality. And what I found was that across all of these cultures, there's one main technique they all have in common: visualization. In today's video, I'm going to share with you a 3-step visualization method that I've been using over the last 8 years and how to put it into practice for yourself over the next 40 days and actually get results. So I'm really excited to share this with you. With that, let's get started. So before I get started with this, I want to give you some motivation to actually apply this. One of our clients, Tia, 3 years ago, she started working with us, applying everything that I'm about to share with you. She was working 2 full-time jobs, 80 hours a week, complete people pleaser, couldn't say no to her bosses, and she was drowning in student loan debt, around $300,000 in student loan debt. And then she, within 2 years, not only did she quit both of those jobs and start her own business, and as a speech therapist, she started to make $40K a month in her business, and she was able to pay off 2/3 of her student loan debt, and her assets became worth $1 million, and this allowed her to spend more time with her family and her 2 young children. But now she literally just messaged me a couple of days ago, and I'll put up the message up here, and she's telling me how the last 100K of her student loan debt just got completely forgiven, and all of her assets just became worth over 3.8 million. So now Tia's just become, Tia 3.0. So it's amazing to see when we get client results like these, just year by year. The beauty of this is if you consistently apply it, because these are deeper principles of reality, you're going to see an improvement happen in your life year after year after year, and you're just going to keep growing. A lot of the times, my biggest issue with a lot of the teachings in this law of attraction, this manifestation space, is it's all a gimmicky technique, right? Like last night I spoke to a client, she was like, hey, I didn't really resonate with this one coach I was working with because he kept telling me to put my affirmations, stick them to a bottle of water, and I'm gonna get results some way. It's not practical. But the only way you can get results is if your heart and mind are both coherent, that the left and right hemispheres of your brain are coherent. And so that's what we do, is we give your mind more proof and evidence. And so when you understand the science behind it, like the actual quantum physics, that's all the research that's coming up, I'm going to share this with you in a second, you'll be able to fully accept it, internalize the teaching, and then it'll give you access to the true source of power, because your mind is like the gateway. If the mind is fully armed, you won't accept anything, right? And therefore you won't have access to the heart. So the entryway to the heart, the source of power, is the mind. The mind is the gatekeeper. So the very first thing we have to understand in visualizing and using this 3-step protocol is the first part is learning to propel reality with the mind. So actually visualizing reality and the reality we would like to experience. So what do I mean by that? Well, we are propelling external reality. The next part is going to be propelling internal reality. Okay, so the first part is propelling your external reality. What does that mean? Well, if you look at how reality operates, no doubt you have heard of the many universes theorem, where there are different parallel universes that can be manifested. Now, how I like to describe this is there is a space, an all space. If you read Hermetic teachings, there is talk of the all. Everything is within the all, and the all contains every possible combinations of possible realities and sectors of realities that can be manifested. The very reason you're experiencing this current reality in which you're sitting in the house that you're sitting in, you're working the job or the business that you have, and you have the life situation that you have, is because your thought energy attunes to that particular sector of reality. Okay? So this is what brings me to understanding lifelines. So let's say this is your current reality. There are many different possible realities you could move to. So there could be a reality in which you're not even alive, you've been consumed by some natural disaster in a particular world. There's a reality in which all of your desires and your goals get manifested. There's a reality in which, you become the Queen of Sheba or something, right? Anything wild you can imagine. All of these possible realities exist. However, some realities are just way too out of reach from our current circumstances. What do I mean by that? Well, if I would like to experience like the 40s or, the 50s, but I was born into this current reality, there are certain things, there's a degree of variance to the possible reality I can manifest. So I can't be as unrealistic, right? As to say like, oh, I'm going to tomorrow ride a rocket to Saturn, right? We're not there yet in collective thought energy. Technologically, we're not quite there yet. So it would be difficult to manifest that immediately. So the degree of variance also dictates how long it takes for you to manifest your goal. So for example, you say you want to become a billionaire. Well, that is definitely possible. That is definitely a lifeline in which you can shift to. However, the complexity of the goal determines how quickly, the time delay that it takes for you to get there. So there's a delta T, a time delay that'll take for you to get there. If you say you want to manifest an extra $1,000, right? It might be easier to do, it probably is easier to do than $1 billion. Now, a lot of people say like, oh, reality doesn't judge, it's all a frequency. I understand that. However, what we're dealing with is the mind. It's the mind that cannot accept the billion, right? If you could fully accept that you would become a billionaire and, it was your sense of reality, then sure, it could happen. It could happen much, much quicker. However, we're still dealing with material reality that needs to arrange itself. So unless you had the Messiah's mastery over your intention energy, it would be difficult to levitate and walk on water, right? Like Jesus Christ could do. So the complexity of your goal determines how long it takes for you to get there. But rest assured, if you keep chipping away at it, you will get there. Your wildest dreams, everything that you actually want to experience in this life, the good news is you will be able to experience those. For a lot of you, you want to experience better material well-being. You want to experience love and joy and peace in your life. That's why we come to this earth, by the way. We come to this earth in this body because karmically, our karma has dictated that this would be the most conducive body, environment, time to be born in to achieve the thing that we want to achieve. So we have all come to experience a particular purpose. The client that I was speaking to last night, her goal is to become a screenwriter, right? Like to get her first book published. And so that is definitely possible. For a lot of you who have certain goals, the goal that you want to achieve, even though it may seem out of reach, if you truly, truly want it in your heart's core desire, and the achievement of that goal would make you feel like you've accomplished your life's purpose, then that is the goal for you. Then that goal is achievable. So the 3 conditions to the goal that you pick has to be, number 1, it has to make you feel like you've achieved your life's purpose. Number 2, it has to feel like it makes your life a continual vacation after you've achieved it. You don't feel this pull to like, oh, I have to do it, it's so important, It just genuinely feels like if it happens, wonderful, like I would love to have that, like this is really what my soul wants, and my life will be wonderful after I achieve it. Like for example, what I visualized for 3-4 years before it happened was waking up in a mansion next to my woman of my dreams, and then I have the red Ferrari in my garage, and I live this life of freedom where, I don't have to work. I could work if I wanted to, and I work, 4 hours a week, but I do what I love. That's the most important part, right? So I manifested most of that within 4 years because that's what my heart wanted, right? So I want to give you a few keys to learning how to switch between lifelines, because it may be the fact that you are currently in a lifeline where you're experiencing something that is a foreign goal, not a goal that was meant for you. What do I mean by that? Well, society, your parents, and your upbringing has conditioned you to want certain things. You feel like wanting this is right and wanting what you want is wrong. So a lot of the clients that we work with who have been in this people-pleasing mindset where they've always focused on pleasing others, their parents, their family, society, and they've always wanted to fit in, this is typically what happens. They cater more to other people's needs more than they do for themselves. And because of that, they also find that it's easier for them to get results for other people. They find that they can get results for other people, but they can't get results for themselves. They can't use their teachings and their expertise for themselves, right? So the question is, how do you shift from the lifeline where you are on the path to achieving a foreign goal to actually achieving yours? Well, here's how. The very first key is we want to begin with more frequent visualization of what we want. So we want to visualize the final goal of what we want every single day. Every single day, visualize what life would look like if you've achieved everything that you wanted to achieve. What does it look like after you've achieved that? Okay? Either during achievement or after. During the moment you're closing the big deal, the moment you're getting something, what does it look like then, or what does it look like after you've actually achieved it? So you could have different scenes in there. Like for me, the accumulation of a lot of wealth, well, it allows me to take this cruise with my family, right? Like I pay for everyone, and then everyone, we will come together and we take this big cruise. Like that's something that I used to visualize. Still have yet to do that cruise due to time constraints and having a new baby, but it'll happen at some point. So more frequent visualization of goal. Why do I say that? Why more frequent visualization of goal? A lot of people have a big misunderstanding that you should visualize for a long duration of time. One visualization, like what a lot of our clients before they start to work with us, they do like, oh, I visualize in the morning for an hour. Dude, that's fucking crazy. It's hard to like hold an image in your mind for an hour, let alone the emotions, right? So I would recommend instead, throughout the day, you have short bursts of visualization, no more than 15 seconds, no more than 10 to 15 seconds, just to awaken that frequency, right? Consistency is more important than intensity. You'll find this to be true in any area of your life. Consistency is a lot more important than intensity. So for example, if you are a golfer, right? Instead of spending hours and hours at the range, you spend an hour, take a break, then you go back and you spend an hour, take a break. That's how professional golfers train. They don't wear their bodies out, just hitting balls for hours and hours and hours. Professional athletes too. And even like people who are getting good at their craft, you'll notice that artists who play an instrument, or musicians, singers, anyone involved in the arts, they find that having more consistent bursts of practice is a lot better than one long chunk where you kind of wear yourself out. Why? Because you train that muscle to get in that state, right? You get into that state more and more. So just like that, and a lot of them use naps, like a midday nap, because a midday nap is kind of like a reset. So you reset yourself, you wake up fresh, and you can practice even more. So a lot of them have a biphasic sleep pattern where they sleep at night and they have a nap in the middle of the day. A lot of artists do that. So doing that, having more frequent visualization, will allow you to have the frequency of your target lifeline. So if your target lifeline was to become wealthy, make a lot of money, have that freedom that you want to have, when you visualize more frequently, it allows you to attune yourself to that energy more and more. So if you imagine, it's kind of like every time you visualize, you are in that thought energy, but then life gets in the way. You get out of that frequency, but then you get back in that frequency. Then life gets in the way. Then you get back in that frequency, right? So we want to make it so that 51% or more of the time, we are in the state of the wish fulfilled, the thing that we want. Our thought energy is attuned to that particular lifeline. Does that make sense? Good. Number 2, we want to attune our heart and mind. We want our heart and mind to come together. Okay, this is an important part. Heart and mind coherence. Why do I say that? Well, we want heart and mind coherence because remember, we want the left and right hemispheres of our brain to come together. When the heart and mind come together, I can feel the good feelings that it would feel once I've achieved my goal, and I can see a clear picture of it in my mind's eye. When those two things are congruent, what happens is there is an organ in your brain called the RAS, the reticular activating system. If right now you don't know the path to getting towards your goals, when your heart and mind are coherent, all of a sudden opportunities will start to show themselves. All of these synchronicities will happen. If you've noticed a time in your life where you've just experienced the state of flow, where all of these synchronicities were happening, it's because your heart and mind were coherent. They were all acting in one direction. But what happens for most people is their heart wants to get to the goal, but then their mind steps in and has all of these doubts. They feel a lack of confidence, they don't believe in themselves anymore. Even though they succeeded in the past, they just can't get to that point of like, oh, I can truly see this happening, this is going to happen. And so that's why it takes them out of that state of faith, of that trust in the world and a trust in themselves. Okay? So we need this heart and mind coherence whenever we visualize our goal. The third part to this, the third key, is visualizing the goal and the process. This is where a lot of people get tripped up, because a lot of people think, oh, you should not worry about the how. I'm not saying to worry about the how. I'm saying when you get instructions for the how, you act on them. Meaning, you visualize the goal, that final destination you want to get to, until you get an insight of what will connect your current to that next step. So there are different chains, right? There are different steps until you get to the goal. So if this is you attuning yourself to your goal lifeline, well, there's an intermediary step, right? And then there's another intermediary step until you get to goal. So these intermediary steps, they are process. For example, Quazi wanted to make 20K a month. Quazi had no idea how to make 20K a month, but he figured that making 20K a month would allow him that kind of freedom that he wanted to have, that mansion and the car and the wife and whatever, right? Like that's what he wanted. And he figured that 20K a month was the goal that would get him there. And so he visualized the 20K a month goal and connected to the lifeline of 20K a month, waking up next to the woman of his dreams and everything else. However, no clue how he would get there. No idea. So what does he do? He keeps focusing and visualizing the goal every single morning and every night before bed. The 2 times where your brain is in the alpha brainwave state. It's more receptive. The gateway to the subconscious is open. Those are the 2 times he focuses mainly on the goal, and sometimes throughout the day. Now, upon visualizing this and the goal that he wanted, all of a sudden he gets an insight, a divine insight of what he needed to do. Back in 2017, he got this insight that, hey, Quazi must start a YouTube channel. This is the intermediary step. Okay? That's the process. So then what did he do? He began visualizing the process. He began visualizing his art. He began visualizing, oh, my YouTube videos are getting more and more views. More and more people are loving them. They're resonating with them. However, he still had doubt in his mind because he didn't know how a YouTube channel could potentially get him to 20K a month. Like, oh, what would he do? Like, you know, YouTube would sponsor, like get sponsorships and make 20K a month. What would he do? Sell journals and low-ticket products? Like, none of those resonated. Those are all ideas in the mind, and these mind ideas came from a current understanding of reality. It is stuck to this current sector of reality. However, when we tap into the heart, we get access to that sector of reality we want to move to, right? So then he still persisted focusing on the process and focusing on the goal. So every morning and night, he focused on the goal, okay? And throughout the day, as he was making videos, before he would make videos, he would visualize the process. He would make an intention that this video would do really, really well. It will get a lot of views. Now, one day, a client, a prospective client or a viewer reaches out to him via email, okay? She says, hey, Quazi, I love your stuff. I need some coaching. I would pay you $300 for email coaching. Blew my mind. Wow. I didn't know that was a thing. I had no clue that that would be a thing. I didn't know I could sell coaching. I'm sure that's what Tony Robbins and all of those other big people, you know, I'm sure that's what they did, but I didn't know that that was possible and that I could do it. But that made a lot of sense to me. As soon as I got that, I knew that was divine guidance, because I had this huge like epiphany and I had goosebumps. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. I ran downstairs to tell my parents, I'm like, look at this is insane. This is crazy. Someone's going to pay me for email coaching. Right? And when they told me that, why it resonated so much with me was because it suits my personality. I love teaching and I love sharing and I love helping people. And I get this like, these really good feelings when I see someone get great results. Like our client Tia, like 3 years later, she's still messaging me. She's like, hey, Quazi, this is insane. Like it makes me feel really, really good to you know, see my clients like winning, crushing it, right? That's why I share all of this with you guys. So coaching, idea for coaching. As soon as I got that idea, by the way, I visualized becoming a successful coach and getting my clients results and working with a ton of clients and making money. So now I could connect that 20K a month to coaching. You see how that works? And so as soon as that happened, as I started visualizing coaching, guess what happened? I found someone who was living 40 minutes away from me on YouTube. I started seeing his YouTube videos and he was doing exactly what I wanted to do. He was making like 5, 10K a month. He had just quit his job because I wanted to quit my job at the time. He just graduated college. He was like a year in, he was making 5-10K a month, and he was like, yeah, you know, I'm doing this through, and he was doing like life coaching, like manifestation coaching as well. And, you know, chances, what are the odds, right? We were literally interested in the same thing. He lived 40 minutes away from me. I messaged him. I was like, hey, how are you doing this? Can we meet up, dude? Like, give me your secrets. And then he told me that he invested in this program. He paid like $2,000 in this program. And he was like, you should pay for it. You should invest in that program, and like, it'll teach you everything that I know. I was like, holy shit. $2,000 was a lot of money for me back then, because that was probably like all the money that I had, but I did it anyways. I put down the $2,000, everything that I had, and then I got the program. It taught me how to do sales, how to do marketing, and how to structure my coaching program. That discontinued. A lot of people ask me like, oh, what did you use to learn? It was by this guy, Sam Ovens, and they discontinued it. But I learned this back in 2019, and then that allowed me to build this, grow it to $100,000 a month, and basically get to my goal and beyond my goal. Like, life is now beyond my wildest dreams. I could not have imagined from that place that I was at, that lifeline that I was at, that I would be here today. So this is step by step. What can happen to you if you get out of the way, you stop the doubting mind, and you simply just follow these, right? Visualize the goal, visualize the process, and you step by step build your life. Okay, so you'll notice I didn't become a millionaire overnight. It took me from starting my business in Jan of 2019, to making my first $100,000 a month. It took me, a year. It took Jan 2020 was my first $109,000 or $111,000 month. I made $111,000 in 1 month. However, I had the idea to start a YouTube channel in 2017. It took me 8 months from the conception of the idea itself, to actually starting the channel in 2018, making videos for a year until I actually started to offer my services, right? I built an audience for a whole year, okay? So that was my journey. I hope that was valuable. So next, the last part to this is, before you begin any task, you want to visualize this task going very, very well, kind of like you are making art. Okay, so you visualize, you take pride in your artwork. So visualize task going well, which is process visualization. When you visualize the task going well, you almost connect it to the goal. You're visualizing this task. So when I was making the YouTube videos, when I was, doing the coaching, I would visualize my clients getting a lot of value. I would visualize me delivering succinctly great insight that makes a transformation happen in our clients. So visualize the task, become an artist. So now that you know the first part in how to propel reality, we must now get to the second part, which is learning to propel yourself or your internal reality. Okay, so now that you know how to propel your external reality, we have to know how to propel our internal reality, aka creating an identity that is conducive to achieving your goals. Before I get to that, I wanted to let you know you could join our exclusive email list and actually get access to a 5-video series called the Identity Shifting Bootcamp. All you need to do is go to realitycreator.com/list, and you'll be able to get access to this, what I'm teaching here, in depth. So realitycreator.com/list, and let's get to our regularly scheduled programming. So propelling the self, learning to create an identity that is conducive to achieving your goals, is one of the most important parts, because we attract who we are, okay? A lot of people use the external to feel a particular way internally, right? They use external reality to tell them how they should feel internally. When they see a lot of money, when they see the cars, when they see the mansion, when they see the partner, then they say, okay, now I've become successful. This is a classical example of becoming successful unconsciously. When you become successful unconsciously, you will always suffer your success. Why? Because you're drawing state from without instead of drawing state from within. You become reactive rather than proactive. You become at the effect rather than the cause. In ancient Hermetic teaching, there is a law called the law of cause and effect. Okay? And everything abides by the law of cause and effect. If we use the effect as the cause, the external world as the cause of our internal world, we will always suffer, because we will always be attached and identified to what we have, how we feel, what we think. We become identified to these qualities that can be observed and watched. But I ask you now to reflect on one question. What is it that's within us that cannot be watched, that cannot be seen, that is beyond watching and seeing? What is that quality, right? What is it that you act as? What is that quality? Everything else is false. Only that sense of I am, that I amness is true. So when you say I am the kind of person that is this way, you're basically telling yourself that this is who I am and that's it. I'm not flexible, I can't change, this is just who I am. And so you act from the limitation and the confines of that character. So we've all chosen to be a character in one particular way. We've made this agreement innocently, we've accepted this because that's all we knew. When we were a kid, our society, our parents told us to be this way. And even beyond being a kid, from our past lives, karmically, we've brought certain qualities. However, that doesn't mean that you have to identify with those, right? So this brings me to understanding a concept called karmic dominance. The reason you have certain personality traits or you have certain desires that you want to achieve something is because of what's happened in your past life. We come into this womb, this body, this is ancient yogic law. We come in to fulfill an unfulfilled desire. We come in to work out this karma, okay? So from your past life, you have an unfulfilled desire of being something exceptional. You wanted to be a superstar, maybe a rock star, or maybe a really high-level business owner from your past life. And so you came into this life, you were born into this womb, this family, because your soul felt it was the most conducive to be born in this, to get to that next level, okay? But then throughout your life, you encounter a lot of rejection from others. A lot of people tell you that it's stupid. You get discouraged by your family, which makes the flame of your desire burn even stronger. And so you commit your whole life, you dedicate your whole life to becoming that rock star or to becoming the successful business owner. But now you know that that is the goal, that is your life's purpose, right? So whenever we work with clients, we actually don't condition them to have a different desire. What we do is we remove the clouds, the false desires, because there's your true desire that you've come into this earth to experience and accomplish, and there are false desires that have been implanted by society, right? Your true desire is the one that would make your life a continual vacation, that if you could do it, you would do it for free for the rest of your life because you just enjoy it so much. Like for me, speaking about these concepts and helping clients, changing lives, that's something I could do for free for the rest of my life. So ask yourself, what is it that you could do for free for the rest of your life? And then if you wanted to, you could monetize it or not. Like my dad, he doesn't care about making money through his poems. He just wants to be published. He wants to be this big poet, author, win prizes, get recognition, achievement. That's his purpose in life. That's his mission in life. And he had done it, like he has a job, a full-time corporate professional job on the side while he does this. And he doesn't care about money. He just needs to make enough to live, and he can work on his passion and the thing that he loves to do the most, which is totally fine, right? If that's what you want, that's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. Me, on the other hand, I wanted my cake and to eat it too. I wanted to find how I can do what I want, what I love every single day, and make a shit ton of money doing it. Because I also love money, and I find that money allows you the kind of freedoms that you wouldn't otherwise have in your life. Right? So that's the life that I chose. And so following this process, you go through rejection, you go through discouragement, and eventually you will fulfill your goal if that is the goal that was meant for you. So we help our clients find that true core desire. So in order to find that, you just have to ask yourself one simple question. If I could do something for free for the rest of my life, what would it be? And then after that, you have the choice to monetize it or not, right? So we come in with one desire, one core desire. And this isn't like a desire, by the way, to like become a business owner, to become a doctor, or to become an astronaut. It's typically not. It's typically like your soul is craving some, to be exceptional, to be seen, or to express your art in a particular way and share it with the world. It's not so, from at least what I find is it's not so tied to a particular field, it's more tied to the quality. Like for me, it's sharing, helping empower others, but also being in the spotlight, right? Like that's why I make videos. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have made videos or had a social presence or had so many subscribers or worked towards getting subscribers and growing viewership, right? If I just wanted to be in the shadows. So a lot of people want to be private and just share their work and still be able to share their art, which is great. So now, there are two different versions of you at any given time. This 1.0 self refers to the version of you that you were conditioned to be by society. Okay? So these are qualities that you have accepted that are not directly conducive to the goal that you want to achieve, and that's why you haven't achieved your goal. So these are maybe qualities of you not feeling good enough about yourself, you feeling like all of these doubts and all these fears that come up because you've been conditioned as a child to never speak up, to always be humble, to not disrespect elders, right? All of these qualities, and maybe you were in a strict religious household where you've been taught to not do certain things. This is your 1.0 self. Your 2.0 self is the version of you that doesn't give a fuck, right? That's just full gas, no brakes. Okay, the version of you that just goes all in and doesn't care about the consequences and the repercussions. So it's the version of you that's your highest self. That is, when you become that self, you feel this sense of power. You step into your power. And chances are you've probably seen this version of you, glimpses of this version of you in your life. However, it's never been consistent. You've never been able to live as this version of you. You've never been able to stay in your position of power because the ugly head of this 1.0 self, it keeps rearing and showing up in your rear view. So, in order to become the 2.0 self, we have to become clear about who it is we must become so that all of those things that we want to achieve, it becomes a hygiene standard. It becomes effortless. Like for me, for example, making $100,000 a month, hygiene standard, right? It has to feel effortless. So what is that version of me that effortlessly makes that? What is the version of me that lives this life on default as just a mere consequence of existing and living, right? There are certain things that are just a quality, just a standard for you. In your life, it's a hygiene standard, like just having this, waking up in this. You've accepted that. You view yourself as the kind of person who has this, right? So when you become that self internally, then you attract your reality as a default. A lot of people, they achieve their goals, but then they sabotage it, right? They achieve something, but then they give it all up. Why? They give it all up because they haven't become worthy enough to keep it, right? So a great man once said, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you get to keep. So you see lottery winners who sabotage all the time. You see certain people who make a lot of money, but then they lose it. They have these boom and bust cycles in their lives. Why? Because they deep down actually haven't become worthy enough to keep it. So they engage in self-sabotaging behaviors, addictive, and they call it addiction, but it's a behavior, right? This behavior comes from deep down a lack of self-worth. So when you become your 2.0 self, it solves all those problems because you train yourself to be this version, the version who you're meant to be. In life, in order to get what you truly, truly want, you must become who you are meant to be. The only obstacle getting in the way of who you were meant to be is what? Your old self, your old conditioning. So how do we create this 2.0 self? We must first get clear. We must get awareness of who it is we actually want to become. Consciously create that. Have you ever in your life been taught to consciously create the version of you that you want to be? No, no one's ever told you to do that, right? You were just given certain ideas and you've just accepted them and you've always focused on the external world. The I was never internal. It was always focused on what can I do to get something? What can I do to get something? What can I do to get something? So now, who can I be to get something? That's what we want to focus on. Who can I be? What I want you to do action item wise is you want to list habits of your ideal self. If you were your ideal self, what are habits that you would partake in? How would you look? Appearance. Habits, appearance, qualities, unquestionable standards. So let's call them traits. It's easier to write. Standards. I want you to list 5 for each. So you could do other stuff that you find would be important to identity, but these are the ones that I've found to be important. Habits. What do you do? What are things that you do? Do you brush your teeth? Do you not brush your teeth? Do you greet people with confidence, or do you greet people or you don't greet people at all? Appearance, how you look. How does this character look? What are certain unique, distinct features does this character have? I always, like to dress simply, have a simple haircut, and just be simple. Traits, what are certain traits that this character has? Endless energy, magnetic presence, use flamboyant language. What are standards? What are unquestionable standards that he lives by? Honesty, truth, love. What are standards? You're kind of building this character like you're building a company, right? You have a company blueprint. A company is created consciously. Why not create this version of yourself that you want to be consciously? Okay, so that's what we want to do. List 5, at least at the minimum 5 for each. Next part is you want to keep this next to you every single morning. Keep a document next to you, and every single morning make a conscious decision to step into this character today. Step into character. At first, it's going to feel very, very unnatural. And a lot of people are like, oh, am I not just pretending to be someone else? At first, it is going to feel like you are pretending because you've been taught to believe that there is one true you and one true not you, when there is no such thing. There is just a desire that you have that has been conditioned into you. You've been conditioned with a particular desire that you've come to experience in this lifetime. Even that is subject to change as you grow and mature. Even like once you achieve the desire, that'll probably evolve. That desire will probably evolve. Okay? So you want to step into character, and as you keep stepping into character every single day, it'll become more and more natural for you as you keep doing this. Okay? It won't feel natural at first. It'll feel super unnatural at first because you're not accustomed to being this character. And so the final part to this is every time you're at a critical juncture in your life, a split, a fork in lifelines, you're presented with an important decision. Ask, if I were my 2.0 self, if I were my higher self, what would I do? If I were my higher self, would I take this uncomfortable leap of faith, or would I stay in my comfort zone? Or is this too uncomfortable and I wouldn't do it? My higher self wouldn't do this. Always act from that state. Act from the state of the wish fulfilled. Everything comes from the state of your ideal self. Okay? So now we're going to complete this with the final part. We've learned to propel reality, propel ourselves, and now we're going to actually coordinate action. So let's get to the final part right now. All right, guys, final part to this is coordinating action. By the way, I would love to know what you guys think. Leave me a comment letting me know what you think of this, if this is helpful, if this is not helpful, if you'd like me to make certain other videos, and what your takeaways are. I always love interacting and engaging with you. So let's get to the final part, coordinating action. So to coordinate action simply means we're tying our action to that goal, the lifeline, the sector of reality we want to experience. Action is very, very simple. We want to take intuitive, guided, divine action. Just like I shared with you when I got this idea to start my own YouTube channel, right? I got the idea to start my YouTube channel and I acted on it. Feel, act. Feel, act. A lot of people, they feel, then they think, rationalize, and by the time they're done rationalizing, the action loses all meaning. It loses its power, right? So you want to cut down the time between feel and act and show up consistently. Every single day you chip away at the goal bit by bit. The next part to this that's super important is acting dispassionately. The actions that you take, don't expect outcomes from it. We want to become process-oriented and fall in love with the process as opposed to the outcome that I want to get. The attachment to the outcome is so dirty, it feels like your life depends on it. You become at the effect and not the cause. When you fall in love with the process, the actual doing of it, the making of the art itself, like when I make these videos, the reason I've been able to make these videos consistently for 7 years is because I actually love to do it. I love making videos and sharing these ideas. So acting dispassionately does not mean you don't love what you do. It actually is the opposite. It simply means your actions are not so romantic. It doesn't matter what the outcome of the action is. It's unattached action. Act unattached, act dispassionately. Don't think of an outcome that you're trying to get from it. And one video that I make is not more important than another video. Every single video is of equal importance. Because if one thing has a disproportionate amount of meaning, I'm going to get in my head about it. And I'm going to require a lot from that video. So nothing is ever too important. Everything is equally important, okay? So I act dispassionately and I just put videos out. And sometimes the best videos that I have, that I feel are the greatest ones, they perform like shit. Other ones that I feel like are terrible, they perform really well. So I just stopped judging. I just make videos because I love to make videos and I love to share these ideas. So that's what I do. So you want to put one foot in front of the other, because ultimately the action doesn't matter. It's an illusion. The action is an illusion. It's the illusion of action. Because the action doesn't determine, like you could, for an example I can give you is, you could have set a goal to meet your ideal partner, and you could have taken action to, approach a girl or a guy, say hi to a guy every single day. Anytime you see a cute, attractive person who you feel would suit you and what your tastes are, you say hi to them, you approach them. Every single day you do it. But then one day you meet them in a way through like a friend, right? Like you have a social gathering and then everyone comes together, your friend introduces you to that person, and all of a sudden you've just met the person that you eventually get married to and have kids with. So you've been taking action one way, but you've just like manifested it through a way that was completely unknown to you. Does that mean that the action didn't matter? No, because the action got you into that state of being. So we can use action to change our state of being. So a lot of the times when we don't feel like taking action, we take so much action we become inspired, right? How many times has it happened that you didn't feel like doing it? You didn't feel like going to the gym, but you're so glad that you went. Because after you went, you felt a change in your state. You didn't feel like doing that big talk or whatever it was, right? After you did it, you felt so proud of yourself that you actually did it, that you showed up. We take inspired divine action, we also take inspiring action, right? Even when we don't fully feel like it, because we're just putting one foot in front of the other and moving towards the goal. See, guys, you have to understand that our world works in dichotomies. And so your capacity to how successful you're going to be is directly proportional to your capacity to handle paradox. Because there is a paradoxical nature to you. You have light and darkness. You feel good sometimes, you feel bad sometimes. You're good sometimes, you're evil sometimes. But these are also parts of you. And those need to be accepted. Because a lot of times people just accept the good, they stuff away the evil. And so what happens? The evil shows up at a time where they don't want it to show up. Like we have so many traders we work with, the evil shows up when they gamble on the charts. Why? Because a part of them hasn't found sublimation, hasn't found expression. And so it shows up at the time when they're stripped down to their core nature. They get into fight or flight, right? So that's why a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, they have this midlife crisis because they've been stuffing down one side to them for so long. They haven't expressed their true selves. So when I speak about the true self, I don't just mean the 2.0 self, I mean the collection of every single part of you. But the reason why it's important for you to get to your 2.0 self is because that part of you it's weak. Your higher self is weak. It hasn't been channeled enough, okay? Act dispassionately, and the other thing you must do is coordinate every action and outcome to the goal. What does that mean? Your attitude dictates which sector of reality you're resonating with, right? You're attuned to. So if I take action right now and I make a video and it doesn't perform as well, but then I notice that and I'm like, this didn't perform as well, maybe it's pointless. All of a sudden I'm attuning to the lifeline where making YouTube videos is pointless. It's not gonna get me to my goal. And so what does reality do? It reflects that attitude that I have. It says, you don't think it's going to get you to your goal? Well, there you go. It won't get you to your goal. That's exactly what happens. But when I look at a video that didn't do well, one particular setback, and I say, you know what? Somehow this had to happen for me to get to my goal. It's just a video. It doesn't matter. Just one video. I'm going to be making thousands of other videos, right? You're going to be making 1,000, hundreds of more videos throughout your lifetime, throughout the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Right? You're going to be doing more. This isn't the only one. So don't get too attached to the outcome. And if the outcome doesn't go your way, it appears as a setback, you have to recontextualize it to viewing it as, how could this actually be a blessing in disguise? Your mind can't see it, and that's okay. That's why we disarm the mind and we operate on trust and faith. Okay? So these are the three main ways in which you can coordinate the action that you take. And by having this holy trifecta of propelling reality, propelling self, and coordinating your action, you're going to see how fast you get to your goals. So I want you to make a commitment for the next 40 days to embark on this journey to applying these three things. And every single day, I want you to create a thread down under. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, until day 40. I want to see what happens in your life because you're going to be shocked to see how quickly your life changes. Okay? Life is going to actually become a game. And you're going to finally win this game if you haven't been already. Okay, so what I want you to do is go ahead and create that thread. The next thing I want you to do is actually learn the method of visualization we use. I made a free video on YouTube, comprehensive with a guide, the visualization protocol. You can click right here to access that. And I'll see you in this next video right now. Thanks.